Hey everybody, so I'm asked a lot, can you give me some tips on how to ride a bike? So I'm about to go and do my CBT and I don't really know what I'm doing. And the thing about the CBT I should explain is it's designed for someone to come from no biking background to just come and get all the training they need to get on a bike. So you don't need any knowledge, they're going to give it all to you. But if you're ahead and you know what the controls do and you have a rough idea, it puts you in much better standing for doing well on the day. Now I'm going to be doing this on a Lexmoto zsx-f. This is a bike I currently have on loan. I do reviews and stuff. And I thought a 125 would be perfect to show you on because it's probably what you're going to be learning on. Unless you're going for your A2, for instance, or even if you're over 24, your direct access. But the controls on a geared bike are the same throughout all bikes. And talking of controls, that's the first thing you're going to need to know, so let's run through them. Now an easy way to remember the controls on a bike is if you imagine the right hand side is all about stopping and going and the left hand side is all about gears. The reason that is, front brake is here, rear brake is here, throttle's here. So stopping, going. On the opposite side, we have the clutch and we have the gear shifter. Now the way the gears work on a geared bike is if you can imagine a tower of numbers, it goes first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, depending how many gears you have. So you're just going down or up through that. Now, neutral's in the middle, so because in neutral, so you have no gearing, so you don't have engine braking, you're free rolling. If you clicked all the way into neutral, you just free roll and you have no engine braking, and I'll show you engine braking in a minute. But basically the reason that first at the bottom means you're always in a gear. If you stamp and stamp and stamp down, you know you're in first. You don't have to then try and find that neutral point. Now the way you find neutral when you want to is if you're in first, and it's always best, even if you're above first, to go all the way down to first, then come back up into it, then trying to go down into it, all the way down to first, and then you just half click up. And that will put you into neutral. When you're riding, you can click from first to second, straight through neutral. It's just a little bit harder. You just go clunk, and that's it. You're into second, and then from that point onwards, it's just, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever. Now, a lot of people are concerned that because you've got, foot controls and hand controls, and you're sort of doing 5 things at once, like tapping your head and rubbing your stomach and all that stuff. It's nothing like that. It's very simple. It's very easy to pick up, and once it's in your head, you don't even think about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through what I need to do to get onto the bike and get moving. So the first thing I need to do is, most bikes have a steering lock. The way these work is you have to push down and turn like a quarter turn, whatever it is, particular models are different, but it now means that the steering is free, nothing's coming on the bike, so you can get on the bike. Hold the front brake as you're getting on, it just means the bike's more stable. Then when you sit down, I kick the side stand up, put my right foot onto the rear brake, and I can let go of the front. Now the bike again is not moving. So in that procedure of getting on, if you're holding the front and you transfer to the rear, there's no risk of it rolling or going anywhere. It's far more stable. I suppose I can just quickly cover the controls to explain to you what they do. Obviously we've said brake, clutch, throttle. This is high beam, low beam for your lights. This is a flasher, so if you're in low beam you can flash it a couple of times to alert someone to you being there. Indicators, left. You have to click to stop it, right, click to stop it. You can go left to right without stopping it, but you must click it. That's one thing a lot of learners do, is they forget to click it and they end up going down the road with the indicator going. Seems like a small thing, it could actually be a problem if, because you're giving a false indication, you could cause you into troubles. Just remember to be turning, and then when you get out that corner, click. Horn, there. This is the kill switch. Now, in the circle with the arrow, so imagine it's going round and around, that means the bike can run. If it's in a circle with a cross through it, means not running, and that means the bike will not start. I mean, look, you can actually, nothing. Some bikes it will try and turn over, but it will not start, so you need that one. So, okay, and the next thing is, well, as you've just seen, this is the start button down here. These controls are always in the same places. You don't ever get a kill switch over here. On modern bikes, this is the layout, it's standardised. So anyone can jump on any bike and know where the things they're after should be. That's just to do with lights. Okay, so starting the bike. Turn the ignition on. Now, if it's a fuel-injected bike, it will run through some little procedures. It primes the injectors and stuff, and you'll hear a little bzzzt. Carb bikes won't do that, but, just let it calm down, do whatever it's got to do. Now, obviously, as I said, rev counter. This N here means neutral, which means we have no gear. And I'm going to take my foot off the rear brake. As you can see, bike will roll freely. On this bike, it has a gear position indicator, which would be up in this little hole here. Not always, it basically shows first, second, third, Not all bikes have that. Lots of 125s and bigger bikes have them these days because it's just handy to have, particularly if you're a learner. It means you always know what gear you're in. Okay, so let's start the bike. So you want to pull the clutch in. Now the reason you want to do that is because if the bike is actually in first, but it says it's in neutral, and you go to start it, and it allows you to start it in first, because some bikes won't let you do that. In fact, a lot of bikes won't let you do that without the clutch pulled in. The bike will jump forwards. Not, you know, fly off. It's just it's the starter motor. It's just going to make it jump, and that can make people drop the bike. So if you always remember to pull the clutch in, then start the bike by pressing this. Sometimes a little bit of throttle's needed. See? It means it can never jump forwards. Now what you want to do is, with your foot on the rear brake still, if you let go of the clutch slowly, if it's still going like that, you really were in neutral. If you weren't and you let go of it, it could jump, but having your foot on the rear brake means that it's just going to stall, it's not going to do the whole jump. That's why the rear brake's very important to keep your foot on. Makes things a lot more stable, a lot safer, no big surprises. Okay, so then we want to move away. Now obviously you're going to have to put one foot down and lift the other foot up because you want to put the bike into gear. So front brake on, foot off the rear brake. Now you don't, you know, if you're on a flat, you're not going to roll anywhere, but it's just a good habit to get into, in my opinion. So you might just, other people may disagree, but this is the way that I would do it. Pull the clutch in, click down. Remember that's first because the gears go first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, up and down. So now you want to pull away. Now one thing that lots of learners do is they don't give enough revs and then they let the clutch out too quickly, and this will happen. That's a standard stall, and that's the worst thing that's going to happen. See, that's the classic, not enough revs, not enough revs. See, and you think, what am I doing wrong? Remember, you can use as many revs as you like within reason, and that will keep the engine running. And as long as you're smooth with releasing the clutch or letting it out gradually, that's what's going to control your actual forward momentum. Not this. Not until you've completely let go of that clutch does this have control over your forward speed. It's this. So I can put loads of revs on and just slowly let it out. See, we're just crawling. And as I let it out more and more, not change the throttle, and now we're out. And now, I'm doing this in circles, so this is a little different. Now, I'm just on the throttle, okay? More throttle, faster, less, not. Now, when you come to a stop, you must remember to pull that clutch in again, because if you don't, and I'm going to have to demonstrate this, because, you know, it's easier to just show someone what happens if you don't do it than, you know, so we'll just slow down, not letting the clutch out, and it's going to go on its own a little bit actually, and up a hill, and then it stopped. There you go, lost control, and it was going to stall. I was surprised it didn't stall straight away actually, that was quite impressive. Okay, so brake on, clutch in. You can do this in first if needs be. You're in first gear, as long as the rear brake's on, the clutch is in, you can start absolutely fine. Now what you want to try and do is have just the right amount of revs, and slowly release the clutch, and you'll get to know this. And as the engine seems to struggle a little bit, you can always add a little bit more throttle on. You see? So now we're going to go down here because we need to go to changing gear and such. Honestly, it might sound complicated, but trust me, to anyone who's been riding for a couple of months, they always say, I don't know what I was worrying about, or if you go to do your CBT, you know, you get very nervous, which is natural, it's fine to be nervous, but stay calm, listen to your instructor, and they'll help you out wherever you need to be, and it will come to you. You will have no problems with it. Okay, so changing gear, this is quite simple. I'll explain while I'm sat still. Okay, so you're going on with the throttle on like this. You want to get off the throttle slightly, pull the clutch in at the same time, click up into second, and then you want to release the clutch and get back on the throttle at the same time. So it's kind of like this. Okay? Some bikes you have to do lots more, some you don't, but you know, it's that. That's the hardest part of it. And you're clicking up in between or down. But we'll get to that. So we'll put that into practice. So clutch in, first gear. You should indicate to show you're going to pull out, shoulder check, then pull away. Okay, so we're going to off the throttle, in with the clutch, up into second, and then back off again. So go up. Now obviously that's quite a slow change. Normally you would be quite a bit quicker, just a bit more like this. Now on a 125, because the engine doesn't have a huge amount of power, you are using lots of throttle. If you're on a big bike, you're not doing that, you're using smaller amounts of throttle because it's got so much more power. So when you're just riding like this, the only controls that you're touching is the throttle. That's it. Twist more to go, less to slow down a bit. Now it's advised that you don't hold your hand over the front brake. Now, if you watch my other videos, you will notice I do that. The reason why they tell learner riders to not do that is because of panic braking. Because you're unsure and you just grab a handful of the front brakes and you can actually crash the bike doing that. You have a low side. I've been riding for so long now that if I do end up leaving my finger up there, I know in an emergency situation I'm not going to pull it so hard I'm going to crash. It's built into me. But it's advisable, and they will tell you in the CBT to not cover that front brake. So engine braking, basically this is where you don't use so much throttle, you come down through the gears and you use the engine, the rotational speed of the engine is as the lower gear, you know, increases the momentum of the engine, it's going to make it slow down like this. First, second and first even. I'll teach you how to ride a Swan one day. I'll show you that again. So I'm going to go off the throttle, in with the clutch, down a gear, and then let the clutch out slowly. See? Now if I do a lot more, because I teach things differently to how teachers teach you, I'm going to show you how effective engine braking can be. I'm going to lock the rear wheel using downshifting only. Don't do this. I'm just showing you the power of engine braking. Okay, so I'm going to go down a couple of gears and then let it out. Hear that? Your forward momentum and the rotational speed of the wheel is out of balance, so the wheel has to skid a little bit to slow you down. Don't do it, but that's basically what engine braking is. An extreme example is normally easier to understand than a fine controlled engine brake. Now, braking on a bike, you want to use the front brake more than the rear brake. Basically, over about 10 miles an hour, use the front brake 70%, if not more. So you're doing like 70% front, 30% rear. You might want to bring that more towards, you know, maybe 60-40 in the wet, but be careful because, and I'll explain why you use the front more. So imagine you're braking with the front, all the weight is going to the front wheel like this. See, it dives down a bit. Now, what that's doing is the weight is transferring onto the front wheel, which is pushing the front wheel into the ground, and you're braking, which means you're getting more grip for the more you're braking. Now, if you suddenly shock the bike into that, that's when you get a front wheel skid, and you don't want that. That's the whole like panic braking, just going ink, and that's when you can just, it's a classic thing happens, the wheel turns to the side and you just go sliding down the road. Very often on the right hand side of the bike, it seems. But in normal braking situations there is a pattern to follow, which is throttle off, brake on, clutch in, which I'll show you in just a second. Quick turn of the road, check it's clear, shoulder check. Turning circle isn't amazing on this bike. It's alright though, there you go, right. Okay, so remember what I said, throttle off, brake on, clutch in. So going along, throttle off, brake on, and as we slow down we pull the clutch in to avoid the engine from stalling. Don't pull the clutch in too early, as remember the engine braking is there. If you try and brake without engine braking, the bike is having to do so much more work. So do that again, throttle off, brake on, clutch in. Now what I did then, as I came to a stop because I was in second, was I clicked it into first once the clutch was already in, which means that when I go to pull away again, I'm already in first. If you try and pull away in second, it's not going to go so well. It takes more throttle, more control, more likely to stall. That is the few simple things of riding a bike really. Everything else is just a modification of that really. If you're doing slow manoeuvres, having your foot on the rear brake just to control your speed is advised. Not the front, because that can cause the front end to suddenly twist on you. At slow speeds, remember, a little bit of rear brake can help control the speed as you do manoeuvres. Like full locked circles in a car park. Let's get out of their way. Now, slow control is the harder thing, and it's something they do cover a lot in the CBT. Because riding once you get going, you know, as you've seen, it's easy, but when you're doing slow control like this, there's lots of things I'm having to do. I don't think about it these days, but it's just, you know, there are things that you have to do to keep slow control. I'm going to make a video called What to Expect from a CBT, or What to Expect Actual CBT, and in that I'm going to explain, in everyday man terms, what you're going to have to do to get your CBT. Now I'm going to cover an emergency stop because this is in the CBT. Now it's slightly different to normal braking because you don't care if you stall the bike at the end necessarily. You want to avoid it if you can, but it doesn't matter if you do because you're doing an emergency stop. You need to come to an absolute stop. You're not looking to pull away straight away again. Now the way that this works is throttle off, brake in, and you don't touch that clutch to the last minute. You don't downshift or anything like that. You just go for it. So I'm going to have to get up a little bit of speed. I need to be in third really by that point, and then I'm going to do an emergency brake. Now the key you need to do in the CBT is to not lock the rear, which means get the front on gradually. When you brake, you want to be squeezing it, not banging it on like that. You want to be squeezing, and as you gradually apply the brake, it increases the braking force. And the reason that's better is because if you imagine you want to push something, you don't go eesh with a really small, you push, ease into it, and it gives the bike a chance to know what's going to happen. It prepares itself for it. Rear brake is basically just a little added extra to take off a bit more speed, but you've also got the engine braking working because the clutch will still be out at that point. So this is every single thing you can do on a bike to get the thing to stop as quickly as possible. So we're going to have to get up to speed here. Okay, so throttle off, brake on, a little bit of rear, pull the clutch in the last second. Not difficult, a little scary at first, but you've got all the control of the bike. You're stopping quickly, no skidding from the rear. It's not that difficult. And in years to come, you can have fun because it all becomes second nature. So good luck riding a bike, whatever you do. Remember to wear your gear, it's very important. No matter what your friends say, you know, you don't need gear on a 125. Trust me, from someone who's had a very serious crash on a 125. Operations, a lot of time off work, permanent damages, lots of stuff. Wear your gear. The only mistake I made that day was I wasn't wearing good leather trousers, or at least Kevlar jeans, like these rock jeans. I was wearing normal jeans, and they didn't stand a second on, because people say, you know, oh, well, jeans buy you 3 seconds. They buy you nothing. It touches and you're on your skin. That's simple as that. And trust me, you don't want what I went through. And that, as I say, was just because I wasn't wearing the right jeans. I still had gloves, jacket, boots, helmet. And that's what you want. Good helmet, good gloves, good boots, good jacket. You don't have to buy the most expensive brands. You don't have to buy like Alpine Star and all that stuff. You can buy some, you know, just generic, good owned brands. You can even go down the textile route. As long as it's good stuff, speak to your local bike shop. Try it on for size, because size is very important. Don't buy second-hand helmets. Everything else you can buy second-hand, that's not really a problem. I wouldn't say gloves, because that's a bit gross. But definitely don't buy a second-hand helmet, because it won't fit right. And a poorly fitting helmet can be as bad as not having a helmet. So there you go. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in bikes and stuff and you want to follow my adventures, subscribe to the channel, Spicy110. And yeah, best of luck to you. Enjoy your biking career. Catch you next time.